Good Thursday morning. Hey, everybody. How's it going? This is Jeremy coming at you once again with Redtired Podcast. And I've got a special guest in-house today. He's a relatively young fella, but he's very successful. His name is Fenn. He is a realtor here locally. And, man, this guy's just impressed the pants off of me so much. I had to have you guys come and meet him. So good morning, Alex.
Good morning.
How are you?
Thanks for having me on the show. I'm doing well, thank you.
Awesome. So, 25 years old.
Yeah.
And you're in real estate.
Yes, sir.
So you've got life figured out.
Except girls.
Except girls. So tell me, I want to know, first of all, let's get a big picture. Who are you? Why do I need to listen to you? Why are you talking on my podcast? Explain to people who might be listening some of your background, some of your history.
You know what, my friend? I had a day where it was a moment where you truly have to realize what's going on around you. And I was in Destin, Florida, 19 years old at the time, doing nothing, man. I was moving beach chairs and umbrellas. I think I made $7,000 over the course of 4 months. So it was just, but it's relative to what you know. And at the time, I did not know any better. And so I took myself out of that environment, and I was given the opportunity to move to Texas and sell real estate with my mother. Completely changed my life entirely. And I worked to figure out, how do I beat this game called life? How quickly can I beat this game called life? I constantly will see other people now in real estate who are just buying their first investment property and they're in their 50s. And I think, wow, I can get way ahead of the game way sooner.
No kidding. 50s?
And yes, sir. And I've noticed people who are older who will be buying investment properties.
And they're just now figuring it out.
And I sincerely, why should you listen to me? And I think the key answer that I can answer to any person out there is I have worked to remove all stress from my life. Anything that I can control, any type of stress, it's negative energy, anything that I can control, I do not let it stress me out in the slightest. The only thing that stresses me out is the uncontrollable. Death. I just experienced my grandfather dying. I could not control that. So those are emotions I'm going to experience. I'm not going to compartmentalize that heavily because those emotions need to be dealt with. Girls, you can't control girls.
No, there's no controlling women whatsoever. You're absolutely right about that. And you can certainly develop a lot of anxiety over stuff like women, but I can give you a lot of pointers on women, and it won't change a thing because at the end of the day, every one of them's a little bit different. Some of them are crazier than others. I don't care if I offend anybody on that or not. Some of y'all are crazy, but at the end of it all, they all kind of play to the same mindset, if you will.
It's games, man. It's definitely games with that. Now, that is an uncontrollable aspect of it. Now, on the controllable aspect, and why you should listen to me, is I have gone and organized my entire life down to a T, where the whole objective of my life now is to go out almost every day is that I live like I'm retired at 25 years old, that I can enjoy every single day that I wake up. Now, I have a schedule that keeps me quite busy, though I have no stress that goes along with that. From my finances to my home, I have literally gone through and organized every single item in my life. Did I need it? Did I not need it? If I did not need it, I either sold it or donated it or I trashed it. Nice. Went through every single square inch of organizing my house. I built my own house so that way I would not have to worry about any repairs and I could just go do my job and sell real estate as well. I plan on turning that house into an investment property and continue purchasing more houses. So that is absolutely, if you're going to listen to this podcast and listen to what I have to say, it's that you need to be as organized as you possibly can so that way you can go enjoy life. You can go out and enjoy your life. That's the whole point, everyone. You work for your families, you work to enjoy life. So what I did is I found a job that I was able to master. I enjoy selling residential homes to people, though at the end of the day, it can be very stressful because people can make it stressful, and I don't really deal with the emotions. of it, like the unneeded emotions that can come with people purchasing houses. I look at it almost black and white. Like, man, this is concrete, wood, and stone that you're buying. Like, people make it a big deal. I don't.
You found a way to remove all the pressure, even from the home buying process.
Absolutely.
Bear in mind, okay, I got to reiterate this. He's 25 years old, and he's built his own house, and he's single, ladies. Okay. So now, but this is really impressive, okay, because we know that the barrier for entry into selling real estate isn't terribly high, but the retention rate is extremely low because people can't figure the process out, right?
You're absolutely right. They're not able to make it.
So what do they do wrong?
They don't become best friends with people.
So it's all about relationship.
Yes, sir. The organized part is only helps you personally, but your clients don't know how organized you are. They don't understand how organized I am in my daily life. They don't know that I stay up till 10 o'clock at night ironing my clothes for the next day. So that way I wake up and I'm pristine and I get going and I go hit the gym. Your clients never see that at all.
They don't see all the maintenance that takes place.
No, sir. That's for you, your Pete.
You got to cut that sir crap out. That ain't going to work here. So, okay. You mentioned the side of it where everybody, like, there's all this other stuff that takes place behind the scenes, and most people they're just gonna think like, wow, what's the big deal? All you got to do is open the door and show me the freaking house, and then like everything, I make all the decisions, right? But let's be real. There's a lot of legal stuff that goes on behind the scenes. There's a lot of paperwork that nobody wants to handle. It's a miserable endeavor, and that's really kind of where the real estate agent actually comes in. Is they're like, listen, I'm going to make this process as easy as possible for you. I'm going to walk you through these steps. I'm going to make sure that you're protected. I'm going to make sure that you're investing your money in something that's a good investment. We're not just going to sell you a pile of crap.
Yeah.
We want to make sure that, you get the best bang for your buck. That's why I represent you. Right. So, in kind of taking with that thinking, how do you reconcile people who try to do the for sale by owner thing?
Well, absolutely. If you'd like to for sale by owner, then if you know what you're doing, absolutely go for it. And I take it more as an approach to be friends with people and as a guidance counselor. If someone says, hey, Mr. Fenn, I want to do for sale by owner, I say, great. I hope you know what you're doing. Sincerely, Mr. Jeremy, you want to sell your house right now? Great. I hope you know what you're doing. I do, but do you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, I know what I'm doing. Do you know what you're doing?
Yeah, no, probably not. If I had to sell my house on my own, I think I'd be in a lot of trouble.
No, I'm talking to you personally. If that was for a business relationship, I'd keep it a little cleaner. But in sincerity, when it comes down to it with people and in general, is right now I look them right in the eyes when I'm talking to them. I add sincerity to my tone and my attitude. Mm-hmm. And I also project the confidence I know what I'm doing. Right. And that's what gets me by most of all the time is when you know what you're talking about. Yes. And if the other person doesn't know what they're talking about. And that's why I can stay calm and get through anything because I'm the professional. Yeah. I know what I'm doing. I know what I'm doing here, and I could operate on a high-level volume with millions and millions of dollars at that point.
So when it boils down to experience, a lot of times people think that experience naturally equates to amount of time spent. Now, again, you're 25 years old and you're doing really well for yourself.
Thank you.
The evidence is all over the place. You've impressed my wife, which, by the way, shameful plug. My wife, she works in real estate. She works right there alongside you, and one of the things that she told me about early on when this whole relationship started with Texas Lifestyles Group, shameless plug, the Texas Lifestyles Group, she said it's different than any place I'd ever worked before. It's like a family. Now, she almost went to another agency, but it was kind of like a last minute thing. Like, well, okay, I just need to go check this thing out. And, she chalked it up to maybe it was a intervention from God. I don't know 100% how this really came about, but this recommendation came about. I need to go at least check this other group out because we need to shop around before I actually begin. And because we did that, she went and met your mom, Robbie, who runs Texas Lifestyles Group. She's the broker, right?
Yes, she is.
Okay. And when she met Robbie, she's like, I fell in love with this woman's personality. I fell in love with her attitude. She was just glowing and shining. She just loves what she does, and it comes out of her, and it's super evident. So the next step is she says, well, you got to come meet this woman. Me? I'm not going to work there. I don't care. And she said, no, you need to come meet this woman. Okay, so I'll come meet this woman. And I did, and she impressed the socks off of me because she's walking out all the characteristics of the person that I'm trying to become, all the characteristics that I'm picking up from books that I'm reading. Dale Carnegie.
I know Dale Carnegie is. Carnegie Steel, correct? I apologize. I thought of Carnegie Steel.
Oh, no, Dale Carnegie. How to Win Friends and Influence People. Was that a joke that I just missed out? That Carnegie Steel? Did I miss something?
No, I apologize.
No apologies necessary. That's all right. We make mistakes all the time here. So when I met your mom, it just impressed the socks off me that, here's this woman who's running this show, and she's like, she was genuine. You can tell when someone's genuine. You can tell when someone's full of crap, and whether they love their job or they don't love their job or whatever. So in comparison, wrapping this up in a nice little bow, my wife she had been going to this one other agency, and I won't mention their name because that would be rude. And she just didn't have a warm and fuzzy about working with these ladies. She said the leader seems kind of crass and kind of a little arrogant, had kind of like a negative attitude. But then meeting Robbie, your mom, changed her perspective. Like, oh, okay, so I don't have to work with somebody who's got this negative attitude. Like, this workplace can be a positive environment.
Absolutely.
And then we found out that Robbie's son works there, and Robbie told us all about you. And I mean, she was bragging. She was bragging on her son because she said in the beginning, he was young, he was working in Florida, didn't really have a lot of direction. And then, we threw him a bone and said, hey, come work real estate. And what the heck, you're young, you got nothing else really going on, so let's give this a shot. And it turned out to be one of the greatest things that you ever could have done for yourself.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
To draw a parallel, this is something that we say all the time here on this podcast, is college is not the end-all be-all answer. You are the perfect shining example of that.
Yeah, I would have to say that most people going to college are fools. Absolutely. Or I would have to say fools as in not a derogatory meaning and more of a not realizing, not knowing. And I have to touch on that. That represents a large portion of our society and population that it may not be that they have bad intentions. It's just they don't know any better. Let's take me moving beach chairs and umbrellas for 6 years on the beach, man, doing nothing but moving beach chairs and umbrella. And I made most $20K a year. And at 26 next year, I'll probably pass $100,000.
Wow. At
26 years old, I'll most likely pass 100K next year. At 23, I made $72,000 at 23 years old.
Freaking amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And now, was that pre-tax or post-tax?
That was before tax.
It's a shame.
I paid tax. I paid some tax on that, but I made three times as much money as I would have on an entire year moving chairs on the beach.
It's very impressive.
Within that time period, and then I learned differently. I went to many classes. I learned from a lot of people, and I was very open-minded to everything. All these very high successful real estate agents, I would listen to what they have to say. I took notes constantly. And
there was a conference that you went to that really set you on fire for this. Is that right?
Yes, I went to Quantum Leap, and it had an incredible instructor there, Dick Dillingham. He's one of the top agents in our company.
Okay. And
completely breaks down you have a personal and business life. And when your personal life is 100% in check, again, besides the uncontrollable, which is going to happen regardless in life, though the controllable aspect in our personal lives, that makes up majority of our lives. The majority, I would have to say 95% of our day and our thinking are controllable thoughts. Even the negative thoughts. Because my grandfather passed away, but there was some good in that I had to see too.
Yeah.
But there wasn't any negative. The negative we can control. I'm sad, but that sadness and negative are two different things. We create negativity. And so in our personal lives, we have to 100% take control of our personal lives And when that is in order, then we can focus 100% on our business lives. And when we focus then 100% on our business lives, that's when we have massive results. Because once our personal lives are taken care of, it's taken care of. It's taken care of. Besides the uncontrollable, which that's always what you have to work at. And in my personal life, I've completely worked to control every single aspect of the controllable aspect. So that way and once that's set up, everyone, you're set. Like my house is 100% in order, every single item. My entire bank account is down to a T. Every single penny is accounted for in my bank account. I'm usually a year out on average, constantly in my finances.
It's almost like you're intentional.
An entire year out, and I run with no credit card debt at all. I have multiple credit accounts. Already at 25, my line of credit's near 45,000 line of credit already, and I don't have a penny in it.
Good.
I don't have a penny on it because I just constantly build so that way I can buy investments.
Freeing up your money to make more money rather than making somebody else money.
Mm-hmm. And I want to touch on the college subject while we're in that discussion. I only believe that people should go to college if they have a job that requires them, that they're passionate about. As for example, if I was going to become an aeronautical space engineer and I loved NASA and I wanted to do that, and NASA said, Mr. Fenn, you need to go get this degree and then we'll hire you the next day. I'd say, great, let me go get it. Will you help me pay for it? Yes or no? Go from there. Though I only believe people should go to college if they already have a job that they know they want to get out of it. You should not go to college if you want to self-discover. I do not believe that's smart to do with your money. That's just not a smart.
It's not
tactic.
a wise investment.
It's not a wise investment, and you're investing in yourself and money. And I don't think our generation realizes how much money they're playing around with. Like when they say, oh, it's 20, 30K per year. It's only 20, 30K per year. I want to put that in perspective, how quickly that goes. If you take my $80,000 that I make, I may, if I play every single card right, I may have 30K left over, 30 to 35K left over to then put what I want to do. So if you're a college student and you walk out of school with 100K in debt, and let's say you're making 80K per year and you do everything right, it'll still take every single free penny that you have for another 4 to 5 years if you do every single thing right every single day to pay that loan off. And these kids are basically kids. I'm a kid too at that age. We're basically getting mortgages before we even have jobs to pay for them. And also student loan debt, you cannot get rid of. You cannot get rid of it. You are going to pay for that. And that is a very, very scary thing. And really, we're doing a disservice to our young people, because our young people are the future of our country. And instead of casting them aside and saying, here's the debt, here's the chain of debt around your ankle, we really should be empowering our young people.
I agree. I think that carrying all that excess student debt, because everybody has this problem where they compare with, well, this is what my parents have, that's what I should have, right? You don't come out of college or you don't come out of high school even and expect to be able to go and grab the exact same things that your parents have taken years and years and years to build. Like, yeah, mom and dad have a house that's worth, $200,000, and that's great, but they probably have most of it paid off by the time you're graduating, or at least half of it. It took them years to get to that point, and we're coming out with this unrealistic expectation that you're just going to be able to go and get the exact same things that mom and dad have got. No, it doesn't work that way. They've taken years and years, if they're wise, they've taken years to accumulate all of these things that are now paying in dividends, so to speak. If you're going to go and do the college thing, and I always talk about this, first of all, you need to have the plan. Just like you were saying, if you go into a college, 4-year degree, whatever, and you don't know what you want to do, you don't have a plan.
If I would actually have a job lined up before I even went to college, and I would know people and connect myself. I wouldn't even go to college unless I knew I had a job guaranteed when I left. I recommend young people, if they're truly passionate about what they want to do, they need to reach out to potential employers. If you want to work for the FBI, then you need to go start calling FBI offices. You do not need to go to college. If you want to work for someone, you need to go talk to someone before you even go anywhere. You need to definitely get connected to people before you even do any decision making, because you may not even need to go to college. And if any young people who are going to go to college are listening right now, I absolutely recommend that they go speak to someone in their career field that they want to get into before they even get started in it. Make connections. And if you constantly go out, you don't have to go to one person, go to 10 people, go to 20 people, go to 30 people. And I promise you, one of those people will help you and get you set up on a path for success if you're a go-getter enough for it.
It's funny you mentioned that because I just had a conversation the other day with one of the police officers here. Abilene PD is always hiring. It's a once-a-year thing. It's a real big deal. They're always trying to get good quality candidates on. And unfortunately, in 2019, it's pretty difficult to find a good quality candidate because everybody sucks. But the police officer that I was talking to, he said, let me preface this because I got to explain the whole story. Otherwise, I'm doing everybody a disservice. Okay, so I have a friend who's going to school for criminal justice. It's not the same scenario because it's a VA thing. You know, the VA is paying for him to go to school because he was a soldier, served in Afghanistan, all that good stuff. And so he's not paying to go to college. The government is doing it because that's what they do. GI Bill. So he goes to school because he wants to be a police officer, and so he studies criminal justice. So I'm talking to my buddy who happens to be on the police department. He says, I tell him his story, you know, veteran, wants to be a cop, he's getting his criminal justice degree, blah, blah, blah. Is there any advice that I should give him? Because he wants to work for Abilene PD. And the officer says, actually, he really doesn't even need the degree. Just being a vet is probably good enough if he's got a clean background. He could have walked on, like, right after he got out. And I was like, oh, really? Blew my mind. He said, yeah, and a lot of people, they go to college so that they can get the bump in pay, and that's all well and good, but everything you're going to learn in college for criminal justice, we're going to teach you in the academy anyway. So you're kind of spinning your wheels. But since, you know, it's free college for him, it kind of gives him a little bit of a boost, and that's cool and everything. But if he would have just gone the opposite route and said, you know what, I'm just going to go talk to these guys like you just said, then it might have changed his trajectory of his career. And he could have actually been employed a little bit earlier and then taken advantage of the GI Bill in the process. So that's absolutely wonderful advice that you just gave. Go talk to who you want. Who do you want to work for? Do you want to be a vet? Well, go talk to the vet. Go talk to them and see what did they do? What process did they walk out? Maybe you want to take a job first as a vet tech, and then you find out like, oh man, I don't know if I can handle this, because sometimes you got to do something that you don't really like. You know, animals don't really like it when you have to cut certain parts off of them. They get upset.
I'd be upset too.
Yeah, it wouldn't be something I would be queasy about it too. But you know, it was a beautiful way that you put it, because just go check it out and see if it's something that you'd actually like before you go and invest 4 years of your life and $120,000 into an education for something you're going to be miserable with in the first place.
We have way too many colleges.
Way
too many colleges. Way too much money has been focused in this country on higher level education.
Absolutely.
And then which really an insult to at the same time is when you bring other people in from other countries on the H-1B visa program that's highly abused.
Yeah.
Highly abused. And folks out there listening, I take this I look at now as a real estate, I look at everything as a business, and I look at numbers for it. And this isn't a political conversation. This is a math conversation. When you take X number of people in and you from other countries and you replace it with the jobs that we have, it's just the numbers do not work out. And I try to have conversations with people and not get political, not get any emotion about it. And I just say, hey, this is the reality of it.
Yeah. So I'm not totally familiar with that, but so with what you're saying is, correct me if I'm wrong here, but what I'm interpreting is people who do come in and get those visas because of who they are, because they've got certain experience from other parts of the world, it actually is a detriment to the college student to date who's trying to go into the same career field.
Absolutely. It's just another hurdle, another person you're going to have to face. We definitely need to have only a few colleges out there for a given population. I agree with the ones that we have here in town, though on a massive scale, we do not need massive colleges. It should only be confined to specific careers of advancement in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, because that's the future of us as a civilization. Almost everything else can be taught on the job training, and that could be almost considered trade. Though, for example, the aeronautical engineering, that's a perfect example, because I'm not going to be able, even me right now, who cares and is sophisticated, a NASA engineer will not be able to take me and in 3 weeks teach me how this rocket is going to go to Mars. It's just not going to happen. I'm going to need to have a lot of pre-background to be able to digest what he is saying in a quick, timely manner. And that's when we need to respect higher level education. I have respect for higher level education. I'm not bashing it. I believe it's just being abused. It's being abused and not being used.
It's not really a functional method for getting to where you want to go. And so, like you're saying, it's not functional as far as maybe. Go ahead.
If you want to go anywhere in life, you need to know people. That's what I've learned. I've quickly learned that in life, it's not what you know, it's who you know.
It always comes back to relationships.
It always comes back to relationships, absolutely. And the only thing is what you know applies to very, very technical jobs that only a small percentage of the population are going to have. And that's those are people I respect who go do higher level education, our aeronautical engineers, our submarine people who design submarines, the nuclear reactors, people who design nuclear reactors that put on submarines. That's impressive. Yeah. You're most likely going to need a higher level education to be able to perform that job. How many people are designing that out there? Very few out there. And
so what's your take on then well, I don't want to say fake degrees, but there's a lot of degree plans out there that are just ridiculous, you know? Dave Ramsey always says the German polka history degree or the underwater basket weaving degree. And it's ridiculous. It really is. But there's people who, and I know this might piss some people off. I don't care. I know there's some people that go out there and they go and get degrees in feminist theory.
That's a shame.
What purpose does that serve? You just spent $120,000 on a degree that you can't even employ yourself.
It sounds like their ego is way too high.
Oh, for sure.
It sounds like their ego is just way, way off the chart.
For sure. But then, so what's crazy is that actually allows for employment for professors, you know, at the college level who really can't do anything else except for rant and rave about feminist theory and feminist history and blah, blah, blah. That's the only employment that they can actually find. So to me, what really, I guess the thing that bothers me the most is that these kids are being duped into spending money on this feminist theory crap, and then they're thinking like, I'm going to be able to do something. Like, what are you going to do with it? Write a book?
That even gets deeper though, is how did all of that start? Where did the bastardization, and bastardization is not in a cursing term, that's actual term.
Yeah, you can say it. That's all right.
Where did it all begin? And that's probably a question we cannot answer, though. It's an interesting theory because it all really started when the communists were heavily infiltrating our propaganda. For example, our media is really a shame. It's a complete shame, our media in this country. And I take that, again, all of our listeners out there, from really an apolitical. I personally have no political party. I don't really believe in political parties. I believe in an America. I believe in ideologies.
Right.
And I believe in supporting ideologies. And I think every person has an ideology, no matter who you are, and it's which ideology do you support.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. I think I've explained kind of a similar concept to one of my children. A lot of anecdotes today, sorry. One of the concepts that I explained to my kids was, so they're seeing things like on maybe YouTube or whatever, where people are marching in the streets and they're angry and they're holding up signs and all that other crap, you know, the protesters. They're seeing all these protesters, and the kids are like, they're trying to figure out like, okay, why are they so mad? What are they so angry about? And I explain it to people like this, is everybody has a religion, whether they acknowledge it or not. Okay. So the definition of religion is doing something over and over and over again. It's something that you just do without even thinking. So even an agnostic or an atheist holds some form of religion in their mind. Whether it's for me, I do have a faith in God, but I don't call it religion.
The people who say they're agnostic or don't believe in God entirely, I think they just don't know enough. I think it goes back to me being on the beach. I'm a perfect example of limiting your potential is a good example. Whereas if I just stayed on the beach, I would never have known anything. I would have sat around, keep doing the same thing. Now look at me as a high-level producer, 25 years old. I'm 25 going on to 26, and I'll most likely, again, make $100,000, $80,000 to $100,000 at this year.
It's not that. It's not about whether you know or you don't know with the agnostic side. It's about doing your own research and coming to your own conclusions.
Mm-hmm. You're right.
Drawing a parallel towards agnostics, you could almost say agnostic could potentially be synonymous with I just don't do it. But so as I'm explaining this whole concept to my kids that everybody has a religion, even the atheist, they're like, well, how does that work? And I said, well, that is their religion. They choose not to believe in God, so they religiously follow that doctrine. That's their doctrine. That's their religion. So the protester types, that's their religion. They're angry about the current state of the world. They don't like certain things. There are certain things that they don't. They might have some kind of political persuasion towards gay marriage or whatever. It doesn't matter. They're taking a stand for something that they believe in, and that becomes their religious ideology.
Absolutely.
So the same thing could almost be applied to the college level, where we have this perspective that religiously everybody should go and get an education, and then we shun people who didn't go through the natural, quote unquote, natural process
until they meet someone like me who has the confidence to know what I'm doing in this life. Yeah. And I'll go talk to any person with a college degree that's my age and not put them down in a derogatory, demeaning tone, but put them in their place of, look, you don't know enough to know what you're talking about right now.
Well, but they have a degree, Alex. They should know everything. It's not quite how it works.
Well, then my next question to them would be, what are you doing right now for work?
Well, that's not the point.
Unless you had a job going out of college, then we don't need to be having this conversation, because I actually have a job to go do right now, and you don't even have a job.
There's nothing tangible at the end of the road, and it's crazy. I did my time in the military, and to me that was my education. That was me getting real world experience, literal world experience, and understanding how geopolitics actually works and how different cultures actually operate. And so I gained a whole different level of respect for how things work here in the United States, because it was all of a sudden like, holy crap, I didn't know how good I actually had it.
Oh, yeah. And you learn discipline too. And that's what I have in my life is discipline. You do not need to be making 80 to 100K a year to make it just fine in this world.
No,
you can still work in minimum wage positions, and most of it comes down to organization of your money. If you're organized with your money, then you can eventually buy a house. Once you buy a house and you pay that down, then really you can do whatever you want in life at that point. Like this house that I live in, I could make my house survive for probably 80 years. It'll outlive me because I built it, and I put foam every square inch except 2 walls in the house are foamed. I even foamed the garage. That house will last about 80 to 100 years. So it'll outlive me, and I could pay that house off in 3 years and for the rest of my life. And I could pay it off before I'm 30. And then I have another, 55 years to live, possibly.
And then never have to worry about anything but the property tax.
And property taxes and eating and basically survival. My point is that this life isn't that difficult. I think people make it difficult because they're not able to control that personal aspect that we talked about, the controllable aspect of their lives. And whenever you leave here today, notice how many people do not have their personal lives in complete control.
There's a stigma behind it. The minimum wage earner, right? Somebody who's working at McDonald's for $7.25 an hour.
By the way, I did for 7 months. I worked at McDonald's once. I have no shame. I worked a job.
And was it miserable?
No, I enjoyed it because I was working and I was enjoying life.
Okay. But you didn't stay there.
No, I didn't stay there, but I do not look down on anyone for working, because at the end of the day, Money doesn't mean that much to me. I just know how to make it, and I'm organized with my money.
Money's a tool.
Money's a tool to get by. Money comes, money goes. Doesn't go with you to the grave. And whenever you work for years on the beach and you watch the waves pour in and you don't even think about money, man. I mean, think about the amount of money that I made. I didn't even think about it. I was just enjoying my life. And at the end of the day, that's all we're here to do, is to enjoy our lives. Once I got into real estate, and after a couple of years of going and learning the grind of it and learning how to perfect my job and then perfect the rest of my life, now I just enjoy every single day I wake up. I just enjoy it.
And it just happens that money follows you where you go when you do something you love and you enjoy it.
Absolutely, based on our attitude as well. But for the rest of my life now, I can just go out and enjoy. And I feel like a lot of people do not get their personal lives in order. That's the key, because that's our first step before our business life. Is once we have that personal life completely in control, then we can maximize on the business world, no matter the amount of money that we're making. And then once the business world is maximized and organized, we have the money coming in to then go do what we want. Some people work so long to then just go do what they want. I say you do it as soon. Yeah. I think it's up to you, not based on the amount of money that you're making. Because at the end of the day, these computers, all of our nice features, that's a want. These are all wants. I don't need to have this. I don't need to have a nice, expensive this or that. Those are all wants. The goal is to take care of all the basics and then just keep building and building and building upon it.
But to be fair, you're at least smart enough to know that you can use that MacBook for work and write it off as a depreciating asset.
I did do that, by the way. I did absolutely do that.
I knew you would. I wouldn't have it any other way. I'm not a big Mac guy, as you can tell, but we had a hell of a time just getting this whole thing started because neither one of us really understood
the new ones
the
are going to be built in Austin.
Yes, and
I like that. I like that a lot. Instead of letting the Chinese communist CCP government make them all for us. Man, I would love for them not to make a single product, and we make it in probably in other countries surrounding it, because we don't need to use China for our secondhand market or our market to make products. And that's one thing that people need to realize, is that we don't need them as much as they need us. And talking about geopolitics for a second, is the Chinese one limiting factor that they do not have is oil. They barely have any oil, and unless they find another source of energy, which we're not even there as a civilization yet, which is quite some time away, the Chinese are never going to be a major threat to us. The biggest threat that I see from the Chinese right now, unless we use our lasers, is they have anti-carrier hypersonic missiles that can go 5,000 miles per hour, 3,000 to 5,000 miles per hour, and our conventional weapons. We may be able to use we'd have to use lasers to shoot those down. But other than that, I don't even worry about China. I don't even think they're that powerful. I think they're a paper dragon at the end of the day, because the ultimate thing that's going to collapse China is their people, not us. Yeah. We as the United States, we really should not get in conflict with China, because if we get into conflict with China, it's going to make the Chinese people rise up against us. When in reality, underneath the belly of the dragon, the people can be our allies. They can be our allies or potential take the Chinese government out. I don't have any qualms with the Chinese people at all. I just do not care for communist ideologies or any communist countries. I believe they're very suppressive of it. And I take this again as a statistic and math point of view. Now, as a businessman, I almost look at everything as a business. And I look at the way a communist country runs their country, and I think that's not how a businessman would run a proper business at all. And when in a country should be run like a business, the U.S. government should be run like a business. It should be backed by an ideology. For example, my business is backed by an ideology, though I still run it like a business. All government should be run like a business to serve the people.
I never really thought of China as much of a threat to us, because I just don't see them actually becoming. I don't see a conflict.
They would be a regional threat if they wanted to invade Taiwan one day. And I do believe that they would invade Taiwan if they thought that we were pulling out or if we weren't interested anymore. And I believe if Hillary Clinton got elected, they would probably have invaded Taiwan. They would have seized upon the disconfusion and the instability of the country For example, half the country would then want to go to war and the other half wouldn't. And what if if Hillary Clinton got elected and the Chinese generals thought, wow, let's go invade Taiwan right now, because the Americans are very disorganized and the American soldiers, who are most likely Republican, aren't going to want to fight for Clinton and start another war with Hillary Clinton as their leader, would be god awful.
It's funny that you mentioned that, because a good majority of all the soldiers that I've ever known were Republican. It was a needle in a haystack trying to find a Democrat in the military.
Well, in soldiers in general, patriotic people, I wouldn't even have to say soldiers because I'm a patriot myself. Patriots do not want to be led by someone who isn't a patriot themselves.
It's true. We had a conversation about this not too long ago, and in fact, it was we were talking about for love of country, and some people kind of take that as an extreme position.
You should.
What was the term that we used?
I believe nationalistic.
Nationalist. Yes, nationalist. And I joked about that just the other day with another friend of mine on the podcast. I was like, so somebody's looking at me on YouTube and they see this American flag right behind, and all this other crap,
I love
this
it.
military stuff,
I really
the
enjoy
dog
it.
tags. And anybody
I love the coffee one.
Oh yeah.
Oh, that's great, man.
Oh yeah. It for those of you who can't see, there's one of these Velcro tags up here. It says guns and coffee, and
That's great.
It looks like a Starbucks logo. And I am no big fan of Starbucks by any means. I think their coffee is subpar, but that's a different topic.
It is subpar,
but it definitely is. Dunkin' Donuts for life. America runs.
I think the girls like it.
I think it's weird because there's two different avenues I'm thinking about now. So one, call me a nationalist because of the flag if you want to. I don't care. I'm going to fly that flag. But with the Starbucks coffee thing, their business model is very interesting. Okay, so I learned something a while back when I went in. We opened up a gym in San Angelo. So I have a business partner, and he taught me something that was really amazing. And I never expected this to actually work because I'm a budget-oriented guy. Okay, I don't like spending expensive money on stupid things.
I respect that. You shouldn't.
To me,
that's a want.
Like Starbucks, for example. To me, $6 for a cup of coffee is retarded. It's
that is
stupid. But there's a perception of value that takes place. So if you take your product and you mark it up to a premium price, then the perception becomes that product is actually a premium product. And it's strange because I never thought that this would work in a gym environment. You got places like Crunch, Planet Fitness. You can get a membership there for $10. Super cheap. But then we did the exact opposite. We countered everything that Crunch and Planet Fitness and Gold's Gym does. And we said, well, we're going to, you work out with a personal trainer. It's a group fitness thing, 4 people to a trainer. You get 1 hour, 3 sessions a month. And I don't know the numbers off the top of my head, but basically, or 3 sessions a week. And you pay like $350 a month. And I went, there's no way this is going to work. This is crazy. Nobody's going to pay you $350 a month to come and work out 3 times a week. And I was dead wrong. They did. And they start, so something happens where like you automatically remove like the riffraff, if you will, people who you don't really want to deal with on a regular basis. You bring in only the most committed people, and they pay a premium price because they perceive premium. And I don't know if that's the correct way to look at it, is that the product isn't a premium product because it's the only gym in San Angelo that actually uses that business model, but it works. And so I think Starbucks kind of did the same thing where they said, well, if we just make it seem like it's a premium product, people are going to buy into it.
Absolutely.
And we have a culture where everybody wants to emit the perception that they're rich. They'll put themselves in debt, $60,000 vehicles, to make sure that people think that they can afford those vehicles. Meanwhile, they're up to their eyeballs in debt. And, it's great. You got that big old gas guzzling SUV. It's the 2019 model, and it's got Bluetooth speakers in the front and the back, and your kids can watch Frozen while you're driving down the road. Great. Is that worth $60,000 to you? Because it's not to me.
Cars are one of your biggest expenses in life.
Yeah.
too. That's why I bought a used one. I won't buy new cars.
Same here
at
buddy.
all.
I drive a 13-year-old Avalon.
And really, people who are going to spend above their means and be uncontrollable with their money, or they're not in control of their lives in the slightest. And to have control of your life means you have respect for yourself. And when you have respect for yourself, other people who respect themselves will see that, and they're going to respect you too. And that's the ultimate way to climb any ladder, is to be the most respected person in the room.
So it's interesting. You actually can demand respect by not even demanding respect.
By respecting yourself, other people who respect themselves will see that and then respect you.
Interesting. It's a good concept. I like that. I'd never thought about that. Well, of course, we all know me. I don't really care what people think.
You know where I learned that?
Where?
I learned that from a World War II documentary based in 1944 at the Wolf's Lair. Hitler was giving orders, and all of the generals there were completely shocked and silent because none of them wanted to be executed at this time in the war. Then this one old general in his 70s came up and told Hitler off and said, "No, you're not going to do this." And Hitler looked at him and respected him and said, "You're right."
Wow.
And why did Hitler do that? Because that man had respect for himself. He was an older veteran. He knew what he was doing. He knew what he was talking about. And he did it without any passion or emotion. And he knew what he was talking about. And Hitler respected that.
I didn't know that. Do you happen to remember the name of the general?
I do not.
Because that would be a really great story. I'm more and more into history, and I'm kind of fascinated by little hidden facts like that. Another one, in World War I, there was a break for Christmas. Have you ever heard of it?
Yeah, the Christmas truce.
Yeah, so you're familiar with that.
I am.
And that somebody actually did a video towards it not too long ago, and I just shared it on Facebook a couple of days ago because it was such a motivating thing for me to understand. For anybody who doesn't know, the Christmas truce took place. It was what two countries was
it was France and Germany.
France and Germany. Okay, so France and Germany, Christmas, they decide they're going to celebrate, and they literally had a truce in this huge war, just right in the middle of it. And the guy just steps out of the foxhole, hands up, and they meet right there in the middle of the battlefield. They shake hands, and all of a sudden they realize, like, oh, my enemy has a soul. My enemy isn't this soulless, faceless, imaginary person.
Or Ernst Jünger from Storm of Steel. Ernst Jünger stormed a trench, if you read the book, and he killed multiple British soldiers, and then he went up to a British officer and was about to kill him, and the British officer pulled his family photo out of his pocket and held it up, and Ernst let him go.
Really?
Took him as prisoner.
This pushes me so hard towards, like, we need to go back and look at how we used to be. Because for us to draw a truce in the middle of World War I, one of the greatest wars, I
love the guy who brought the Christmas tree on the field.
Did they?
Yeah, there was a German soldier who was carrying a Christmas tree. You know, that guy was so happy. He couldn't even do anything with his arms. He was, and you know what that means to me? He was innocent. Because he's there in war. He's not using his hands. And it comes back to primal instincts of survival. And when we're community driven, we don't think about ourselves. Yeah. And he was in that moment with the community, and he wasn't caring about himself. If he was caring about himself, he wouldn't be carrying a Christmas tree with both of his arms across no man's land and a soccer ball that he was kicking.
And we could just imagine the look on the other side, just like, this guy's carrying a tree. Where did that come from?
Where did this guy get a Christmas tree? But yeah.
But the parallel, and this is where I struggle with modern society, is the parallel that we draw in this scenario is we still have this team mentality. You mentioned earlier that you don't subscribe to any kind of political ideology. I'm not a Republican. I'm not a Democrat. I happen to be in the same boat. I say it all the time. I'm an independent. I vote for whoever's the best candidate.
I do like to listen to all ideas, though, and most of the time I would have to say that I lean what is now called conservative for the majority of the time. Though, to touch on my ideology, I believe, have you ever played BioShock Infinite?
Yes.
BioShock Infinite, without the racial aspect of it, just the pure pride in America, that's what I support and believe. Fallout is probably the best example that I can give. If you ever play the Fallout universe, for our listeners out there, in the Fallout universe, you don't even hear about political parties. You just see the love of the country and the complete love. And that's really what hurts me the most right now, more than the college, is to see the media of our country completely trash this country. We're not even conservative or Republican. I believe the media in general just trashes the United States of America. They're not even this country. I would have to say 90% of the media does not even support this country. And that's really a shame to me, because you can support this country without having a certain political ideology. You can support the ideology of America. The constitutional republic that we are. You can say democracy, but I really support the ideology of our constitutional republic that was founded, and I strongly believe in having a constitution as a base for your society. Without that, then you have no rules, and without rules, you have nothing to follow. You have chaos. Without rules, you have chaos, and we have to keep stability.
The constitutional republic. So the media is always talking about Donald Trump is going to destroy our democracy, right? That's the constant banter that comes out of the big talking box. It's a ridiculous concept on its face, because even constitutionally, like you said, we're a constitutional republic. We're not a democracy. We're a democracy at maybe the smaller scale, local elections, regional, state elections, all that stuff.
If that.
But we don't. But there's a reason we operate under the Electoral College, because we're not actually a democracy. And it's weird that they throw that name around all the time as if democracy is a real thing, which kind of placates to propaganda. The whole idea of Democrats actually being like a farce in the first place, because they're democratic. They don't actually understand there is no national democracy in this country. That's not how it works. So it's a crazy idea that anybody would subscribe to. Don't you think, like, Donald Trump's going to ruin the democracy? I think that's a ridiculous concept.
Yeah, it truly is. It's really a shame to see the direction of how things are going, and I really hope it will change over time. And that's going to take not the media to change. It's going to take the individual of the person. It will take man. Man directs society in the direction of society. It's not the other way around. Government doesn't dictate the direction of society. Even communist governments don't dictate the direction of society. They can help nudge it in the direction that they want to go. The society is ultimately based on where man wants to take it.
I agree 100%. What do you think about, since we're going down the political rabbit hole, what do you think about the Trump impeachment hearings and all this garbage that's been going on Capitol Hill with Adam Schiff and pushing for the impeachment?
Well, it's no different than what's been happening from the very start. And I'm not surprised, and I'm not surprised if it won't continue even once he's reelected. It's control of the airwaves is what it really boils down to. It's not really about impeaching him. When you look at the finite details of it, it's not about trying to remove him from office, because they know they can't do that. It's about controlling the spotlight, the voice of the country, of what people are hearing and listening to on a daily basis. They're not hearing that roads are getting rebuilt. They're not hearing that our veterans are actually now being taken care of, about an administration who actually cares about them and wants them to be taken care of. They're not hearing about the amazing deals being made with other countries. They're not actually hearing how incredible our planet is doing right now under his administration and the peace of the world. The Pax Americana, that is truly the long peace that the Romans experienced. We're experiencing that right now in our own country, heavily because of President Trump is extending it. That will only extend based on if you have a good administration.
Pax Americana. You want to explain that a little bit?
Yes, sir.
That's new. That's some Latin stuff I ain't never heard.
Pax Romana is for the 200 years of peace that the Roman Empire was able to experience without any major conflict with any other nation or empire or civilization. And I believe after World War II, we're now experiencing that. Though we had a Cold War that was pretty scary, not an active hot war. Though right now we're extending that peace into the future, and we can continue to work to extend that peace, hopefully far, far into.
Now that was during the peak of the Roman Empire that you're referring to, is that right?
Yes, sir. Until in 178, 179 AD was the height of the Roman Empire, right before Augustus before he died. And then after 200 AD, the empire started falling apart with the conquests of the German tribes were able to break the northern barriers.
So do you believe that that all of this peacetime was relative to the strength of the Romans?
Absolutely. Absolutely. The Romans fell because of their leadership. That's why the Romans fell. And the Romans fell because they were doing a lot of incest. They had terrible leaders because it's true, though. They had families, just like Game of Thrones that you see. The Romans were no different. You would have a family who would gain power, and they didn't want to lose that power. And so what they would do is their brothers and sisters would have children. So then those children would become emperor, empress, and they would continue the family. But what happens is then you get bad emperors. Nero is an example of one. And then without competent leadership, there's no point of sending an army away if your leadership at home is not in good standing order and is in complete agreement with each other. Your army might as well be dead to you if you send any military forces away from home and your leadership is not organized. And that's what happened. As you had terrible leadership, you had war veterans who were not getting into leadership roles, which is what should have happened.
Mm-hmm.
And
People
then you
who
have
had
the
a
breakdown
total lack of experience.
society, because when your leadership falls apart, then your society starts to fall apart. And it's all based on security and stability, that the people can be comfortable, because the people are going to keep being the people no matter what, no matter who rules them. But it's just if you're going to be progressing with those people. And the only way to keep civilization afloat is to have strong leadership and a strong protection, strong military. And that's why the Roman Empire fell, was mostly their leadership. They've already controlled so much. They've already gone so far. It's not that they overextended their lines by any stretch of the margin. That's not the problem, because you have local resources. It's how was it managed? How is it managed? And when people see at the top that it's dysfunctional, then it only trickles down from there. People know they can get away with it. If you're a local leader and you know, hey, the emperor, man, this guy's jacked up, he's crazy, then I know I can go get away with something. I can go steal from the coffers before I send a truckload of gold back to Rome. I can go steal a couple bars. And you do that over the course of 300 years and your society falls apart.
And that leads back to your perspective, where you manage every aspect of your life.
Absolutely.
You could almost say hyper-manage.
To excessively, almost to the point that every single piece of paper is organized in my life. Every receipt, every single document. I do not ever want to go back. And I find that if we have to go back, it takes more time than going forward. If I took all the receipts for a year and I wanted to organize them at one time, if I kept putting them in a drawer, I believe that would take me more time than just doing it once every single day and organizing it into my folder. My phone is completely organized with all of my photos that I take. Every single receipt I take and organize, and I also track all my expenses. So that way I can see if I'm being proper with my daily expenses. It's tedious, but it also gets me not to purchase things, because I say, whoa, I'm spending quite a bit of money here. And when you add up all of your expenses, not even your business, but your personal expenses, and you organize that into a schedule, you're going to spend less money, because you're realizing how much money you're spending too once you start adding it up.
I like this because it tells me that you don't pray at the altar of consumerism. So, because bear in mind, Thanksgiving, right?
That's
and
my
what
favorite
happens
holiday.
Right after Thanksgiving, we've got the big Black Friday sales where everybody goes out and tramples everybody else for a $99 TV.
It's a shame.
It is. What's your thoughts on Black Friday?
I support our country for capitalism. I strongly support capitalism. I think it's a great business model, and I believe a government should be run like a business. Though I do not believe we should have love items. We should love our families. And besides food, water, and shelter, and oxygen, you don't really need anything else. So I believe all of these wants are just wants. And I believe that goes back to the intentionality of the people in the country. I support having those sales. Why not? We're a country of capitalism. Go have a giant sale. Though I believe as a population, what are our intentions behind the sale? My intentions would be, let me go get my family something nice. Not I want to just have stuff, just to have stuff. What are your intentions behind owning this product? How are you going to spend your money and organize your money with it? Because if you're diligent with your money and your time, that's the best way you can serve your country. The best way you can serve the United States is to be the best citizen that you can be, in your own personal life. And that's the best way you can contribute to this country.
Yeah, take care of your home first. You can't take care of anybody else if you don't have your own stuff put together.
And it's back to that respect. I respect myself so highly that it pours out of me, and other people see that. I had a client, a very, very wealthy client here in town, who ended up working with me over a couple other agents. And the reason he chose me is I knew what I was doing. I had respect for myself, and I always showed up organized with all of my paperwork every time I showed him a house. And he told me, he laughed one day and he said, "Alex, I know exactly what documents these are. I've bought many houses already." He said, "But you're the only agent who's ever brought them to me."
Wow, that's both invigorating on one end, but kind of sad on the other. It's excellent that you're standing up and making a name for yourself in the community, especially. But it's also kind of sad that, you know, some of these other people aren't holding themselves to the same high standards. And I think that's kind of where I wanted to go with this in the first place, is because when I first met you, that was my thought process, is like, okay, this kid's pretty impressive. Like, I think he's got his stuff together. And, you know, yeah, I was judging. Get over it, right?
I would judge every single person. I appreciate you doing that.
Yeah.
We judge everyone.
Because everybody's got this idea like, well, who are you to judge me? Well, so who am I to judge you? Everybody judges everybody, whether you like it or not.
Instant,
you're going to
you
get
see
judged.
someone, you judge them within 1.5. I think we read human emotions within a half a second. Like when it's 1.5 seconds with looking at a stranger, we can identify if they're a good or bad person.
Yep, you've instantly made your mind.
Human eye can make a decision within 2 seconds.
Mm-hmm. And it's a natural defense mechanism as well. You know, biblically it says, "Judge not, lest you be judged," right? That thing gets taken out of context all the time. So the basic principle that it actually espouses is like, look, to whatever degree you judge somebody else, likewise, it's going to come back to you. So if you're going to judge somebody, you better make sure that you've got your ducks in a row first. And that's a basic principle, basic outline of how that's actually supposed to work.
If I judge someone, I'm going to also do it in a tone of what is your intentions behind judging them.
Right.
If I'm going to judge someone, then it's I want to help them, not a cruel, oh, look at this person.
Right.
Type of attitude. And that's not being a good citizen either.
Right.
Because that's another citizen of your country. Why create hate? That goes back to we don't need to hate our fellow citizens in this country. We don't need to be angry with people in this country. So where else are you going to go?
Right.
Sincerely, where else are we going to go? Canada, Mexico, Europe, all of it. And that's why as a civilization, we just need to have that happy utopia. While it may seem out of reach, I work to create it every day in my walk of life. And I believe if I continue to spread goodness, then goodness will continue to spread.
You got an excellent mindset, man. I really appreciate your mindset and the way that you do things, and in the way that, and like I said, that's why I wanted to have you on in the first place, is because I believe there's hope for the next generations coming up. And yeah, there's some soft people, and there's going to be weak people in every generation, but you're setting an example to say, hey, look what I've accomplished by 25. Okay. I've done some great things, and I'm giving him credit here. Alex has done some great things. And I've just been really impressed, because when I was 25 years old, man, I was like, 2008 was the financial crisis, and I was still like, I don't know what I'm going to do. I just got to go find a job. Like, that was my thought process at the time. So, part of my motivation for having you on was to kind of put that out there and let everybody else know, like, look, there's hope for this generation and these upcoming generations. Don't just give up on these kids. Give them some actual real truth. Give them something tangible that they can reach out, grab a hold of, and a path that they can pave. And I don't think that college specifically is probably the best route for everybody to go. I think the trade schools are a fantastic idea. Plumbers can make $100,000 a year too.
One of the best things that we can do for our generations is teaching them about money finance.
Agreed.
Organizing your money down to a T and having that completely in line, then everything else kind of falls in place.
I agree.
Now that as a real estate agent, I make my own schedule and I make my own money, my own commission, I look at other people and their jobs, and it's almost easy at this point. When I see someone making so much money and they tell me, oh, you need to have this or that, I can probably say, look, man, I make more money than you. I appreciate your advice. How much money do you make and how much am I making?
Yeah.
Now.
And it's really easy to dismiss.
And there's not many people making over 100K. in our country.
Not in our area, especially.
Not much at all.
We don't have that kind of income in this area. It's not a regular thing. I'm approaching the line. We're still pushing. When Ashley starts selling some houses, we'll be having some money coming.
That's how you solve all your problems, right? Just sell more houses.
Yeah, just sell more houses.
that's how we solve all of our problems.
Yeah.
And as we're on the topic of money, I think money just exposes who you really are in life.
It does.
Just exposes who you are.
Yeah, it's
no
like
matter the amount.
A tea bag into hot water. Whatever's on the inside, it always comes out. Money, marriage, they're the same thing. Marriage will bring out the absolute best and the absolute worst in everybody. So, Alex, real quick, for anybody who's listening, if they're wanting to buy a house from Alex, where do they go?
You can give me a call at 325-268-6772, or you can look me up on Facebook. I'm a public figure on there. My name's Alex Fenn, Fenn. You can easily friend request me. Check me out. Over time, I may do some motivational videos as well. The best piece of advice that I can give everyone is to completely organize your personal life. Don't worry about your business. Don't worry about money, because it's going to happen no matter what. Because you're going to have to work no matter what. Even if you're farming a field, you're going to have to do something.
Absolutely.
So if your personal life is in order and you control all of the controllable aspects of it, then the rest of your life is easy.
Absolutely.
And then you can just fill in the wants that you have.
That's some sage wisdom from a very, very young man. I'm very impressed with you, man.
Thank you.
Also, don't forget, you can go and find Alex here if you're local at Texas Lifestyles Group. His mom, Robbie, runs the whole thing. She's an excellent person to deal with as well. And Alex, you are without a doubt a very impressive young man. I want to have you back many, many times. I really enjoyed hearing your perspectives. Go buy a house from Alex. Well, actually, or my wife, that would be great too.
Yeah, you know what? Go buy a house with Ashley. And I want to touch on, as a real estate agent, I just have fun in life. I don't really solicitate people too much at all. I just offer guidance, counselor advice, because I know where my leads come from. And from that, I can just I can come from generosity. I can come from contribution. In the way that I present myself. And when I'm desperate, people do desperate things. And there's still a lot of desperate agents out there, and most of the public interact with the desperate agents. And that's why they have a bad perspective of real estate agents in general, is because they're interacting with the desperate agents who don't make sales, who don't sell a lot of houses, who aren't organized. I'll sell around 40 houses a year right now. Dang. On average is how many houses I sell. Dang, it's around 6 million to 6.5 million in volume, over 80K a year income right now. And it's just only progressing around 20% per year. I've only been doing it for 5 years. And this is where I'm at. And I plan on continuing to capitalize on that.
Freaking amazing.
And now at this point, I'm openly tell people how well I do, because I've already solidified a base of income. So now I don't have to be scared about anything or seem different. I'll tell anyone how much I make, how well I do, openly. And I'll tell my clients, I sell this many houses a year, because I want my clients to know that I know what I'm doing and that I sell a lot of houses, because they want to work with people who do really well. Yeah. For example, Donald Trump, for example, President Trump, he's a real estate broker. Mm-hmm. He's still a real estate broker to this day. I can be just like him.
That's where he made all of his money, in real estate.
Mm-hmm. Now, would you work with him and have him sell you a house if you could?
I mean, yeah, who wouldn't? Well, I mean, I guess a leftist or an extreme Democrat probably wouldn't.
But would you pay, because of someone like him, would you pay to work with him?
Probably.
Would you pay him to show you houses?
Oh, yeah. I'm sure.
Do you see my point? So he got himself so big to the point that you would actually pay him to show you houses and to represent you as the buyer instead of letting the seller do that. Why am I no different? Why allow myself to be any different than what President Trump does? And President Trump established himself as someone who's credible and knows what he's doing, all the way to the point, and he's made the money to do it. And that's why I'm open about how well I do. So I want people to be able to work with me and say, wow, this guy's so successful, I want to work with him. I am not ashamed to tell people how successful I am because I want them to work with me. No different than President Trump. And he has shown so much success that now you're willing to pay to work with him. And you don't even have to. Now, let me ask you this. If you could work with a regular agent here in town and buy a house and not pay them because the seller would pay, or would you let before he was president, would you let Donald Trump show you houses and you would have to pay him to show you houses?
Yeah, you got a good point there.
You see my point?
Yeah.
Because you can get the same service. You can get the same service.
But there's wisdom that comes along with it.
There is.
And people will pay good money for wisdom.
And President Trump's already getting paid, though. So he's making double the money. Because, look, you're getting offered, he's a real estate broker. You're getting offered the exact same service that he's as the other agent who just got their license. And President Trump is already making his money the same as the other agent. But you would pay President Trump to still show you houses because of how successful he is.
So there's a hell of a concept to chew on there.
So why wouldn't I want to boast about my success and be as successful as I possibly can so then people would want to work with me and paid to work with me? And I treat my clients that way too. I had this one client who was very, very rude to me. And I said, sir, working with me is a privilege, and I hope you have a great day. You can call me back if your attitude changes.
Wow.
I will not be disrespected and treated that way. My clients need to know that working with me is a privilege.
Wow. And that works.
It is. It does, because it's respect. I respect myself so much to the point that you need to respect me as well. And if you don't respect me, then I'm not going to work with you. I'm not desperate. I do not have to have your money. I am not someone who is salary and you will treat disrespectfully. And that's a shame that you treat anyone in this country disrespectfully like that to begin with.
Yeah,
but I come across some bad clients, sometimes bad customers. I just don't even let them bother me. And I kind of put them in their place politely and say, look, you have no right to talk to me like that. You have no idea who I am. You have no idea. I almost want to say, how much money do you make? I almost want to be smart and say, oh, wow, I can hear myself way back. I almost want to say, how much money do you make right now? 45, 50K? Well, I make double you, brother. So you want to stop being mad at me, or do you want to learn how to make money in this world?
That's right.
And once I started making a lot of money as well and being successful, it took away most of all my stress and organization that I can talk to people without getting angry at them.
Remove the emotion from the whole process.
Well, don't get angry at your money. I don't get angry at clients. I had this one client who really messed up, man. I mean, I'm telling you, this client messed up really bad. And the client came back to me and said, I apologize to you. I'm sorry I treated you badly, because the client blamed it all on me and I had nothing to do with it.
I see.
And he apologized to me and said, would you take me back as one of your clients? And I said, absolutely. Instead of me having an attitude back and getting mad at my money, I said, I'll absolutely work with you, because they apologized to me. And we need to remove the ego in business. And we need to remove ego in life in general. Because when someone comes and they're sorry and they're showing that good intention, then we need to seize upon that good intention. Because you either have good intentions or bad intentions. And at one time he had bad intentions, but then he switched to good intentions. I'll support the good intentions to build upon the good intentions. Because if not, it's going to go back to the bad intentions and they're going to be bad again. Because if I told him, no, I don't want to work with you, man, screw off. Well, that's showing negative, bad intentions from me, and he's going to accept that as well and then be bad himself. So I'm going to get rid of the bad and only focus on the good.
You are definitely coming back, sir. We're going to go ahead and wrap this one up. Alex, I don't know if you've listened to the show in the past or not, but there's always one way that I like to end these things, kind of tell people, like, here's my sage wisdom, my sage advice, and that's real simple. Just do some freaking push-ups.